Oh, I see you found me. Very well. I don't really believe in TBRs for seasons, but fall is an exception, because fall is magical enough to make me believe I'll read this many books in a little more than 2 months. Damn, September's going by fast. I call this a fashionably late TBR because I have a feeling like everyone except me has already read most of these ages ago. And again, it's almost the end of September, but you know that moment in the movies where everybody's already gathered for a ball or something and then the main character shows up? Yeah, let's pretend it's me, only most guests have already gone home and some of those who are too drunk to do the same are thrown up in the corner. I'm sure there's a movie about a grand arrival like that too. I'm a slow reader. I read about 4 books a month, but luckily I'm also delusional, so let's go. And please stop with the stupid questions like, who are you? What am I doing here? We don't have time, September's almost over, I can hear Green Day play. So currently I'm reading the Ukrainian translation of The Diary of a Bookseller by Sean Bithell. I picked it up from a book crossing shelf for some reason thinking it was fiction. It's not, although sometimes it feels like it should be. Long story short, a young man felt like his life wasn't complicated enough, so he bought a used bookstore in Scotland, which sounds like a dream and occasionally like a nightmare. Fortunately for us, he documented a year of his experience. I'm having a great time. The translation is quite good too. And no offense, but I like the Ukrainian cover much more than the original. Also this fall, I plan to read Vicious by V. Schwab. I read The Darkest Shade of Magic early in the year, loved it, so what's my next move? Start another series by V. Schwab, obviously. What was your answer? I've heard this is a rare case of a STEM dark academia, which makes me much more excited than I was for actual STEM in school. I've already started it, and from what I've gathered so far, Victor and Eli start as college roommates and friends who at some point decide to experiment with near-death experiences. For science, obviously. 10 years later, Victor breaks out of prison, so I guess that went well. I believe it was a standalone that grew into a series. Looks like the finale will be released at the beginning of the next year. Wonder if I'll be able to finish all the parts until then. Spoiler, absolutely not, but I can try. The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. Picked it up from a used bookstore mostly because of the title, even though it does sound like a bit of a spoiler in and of itself. At a party thrown by her parents, Evelyn gets murdered over and over, and our protagonist, who is not Evelyn, needs to find the killer while each time waking in the body of a different guest. The blurb says this happens hundreds of times, but I suppose there must be some limit to the number of tries. 7, perhaps? Otherwise, what are we doing here? I don't know if the story is happening in the fall, but the concept of a murder mystery in a rich old house is given fall, so I'll just imagine yellow trees around it. Babel by R.F. Kuang. So, story time. A while ago I found out that R.F. Kuang deleted her tweet where she was talking about the possibility of stopping publishing in Russia after its full-scale invasion in Ukraine in 2022. So I spent about a year quietly boycotting her, only to find out that soon after that story blew up, she'd posted that Babel was being published in Russia under a previously existing contract that she couldn't back out of. I felt bad and bought the book. To my knowledge, this is about translation, something I'm deeply interested in, so I'm glad I'm not boycotting anymore. Anyway, this is set, I believe, in some magical alternative 19th century London, where an orphan from Canton is brought by a mysterious professor. He trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, but knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, Robin realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. So an obvious moral dilemma, super fun. I've also heard that the ending is devastating. That's what happens when you boycott a book for a while. So I have a bad feeling and a good feeling at the same time. Who allegedly didn't have second thoughts about doing business as usual with Russia is Emil Rio, whose If We Were Villains came out in Russia after the invasion started, I believe in 2023, and was translated by Ekaterina Rakitina, the wife of a Russian propagandist Yuri Vasilyev. I don't know when Emil Rio sold the rights and what she thinks about the translator, and honestly, Vasilyev and Rakitina aren't that well known. I don't think Emil Rio has ever addressed it. Either way, it's shady company all in all. But I wanted the book. I got the book as a gift from a friend, which I really appreciate. I'll read the book, and I don't think I'll be talking much more about the book. All I know about the plot is that it's often compared with The Secret History. There's a lot of Shakespeare and apparently a murder, and honestly, that is enough for me. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This one I bought thinking it was a non-fiction self-help book, so imagine my disappointment. I'm dead sure someone has already made this joke. 5 years prior, a schoolgirl was killed, and now a high school student, Pippa, decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project. And she lives in a small town, so obviously she finds out something sinister. It's a high school murder mystery, so YA, and I am in my 30s, but luckily I never really grew up, so in the TBR stack it goes. The Book of Accidents by Chaka Wendick. The blurb sounds like it's full of childhood trauma, but what's new? Long ago, Nathan lived in a house in the country with his abusive father and has never told his family what happened there. Long ago, Maddie was a little girl making dolls in her bedroom when she saw something she shouldn't have and is trying to remember that lost trauma by making haunting sculptures. Long ago, something sinister, something hungry walked in the tunnels and the mountains and the coal mines of their hometown in rural Pennsylvania. Now Nate and Maddie Graves are married and they have moved back to their hometown with their son Oliver, which sounds like a terrible idea, but a great premise. I want to read it this fall because it's from a book crossing shelf and I'm supposed to eventually take it back, but living in Kiev, there is a chance I'll have to travel soon because of a certain neighboring country's genocidal proclivities, and ideally I'd like to return it before I go. I read Blackbirds by Wendick and I can't quite tell if he's clicking for me, but he seems to know how to take you along for a wild ride, so I'm cautiously optimistic. I usually combine reading in Ukrainian and English, and the book I'm planning to start soon is The Song of Orkuds. It's the last installment in a series called The Grey Order Chronicles by a Ukrainian author and currently a serviceman, Pavlo Derevyanko. It's an alternative history-type fantasy about an order of werewolf knights based on charakterniks from Ukrainian folklore. Here they are witchers, I'm not sure if it's the correct term, anyway they can turn into wolves and do other supernatural stuff out of patriotic duty and sometimes for money. Meanwhile, politicians be politicianing and the state is in danger. Same old. The previous books in the series were fun, sometimes sad, sometimes painfully relatable. The characters are flawed and lovable, and I can't wait to see how this story ends. And I really wish it was translated into English so more people could read it. Another book I'm just starting and will probably be reading for a while is in fact non-fiction. It's The Science of Fairy Tales by Edwin Sidney Hartland. Yes, I've heard about it for the first time when Guillermo del Toro mentioned he'd given it to Taylor Swift. And since I'm fascinated by folklore as this time capsule of the collective unconscious, I decided I too wanted an in with that celebrity club. It looks like a certain general public-friendly exploration of folklore that was first published in the 19th century. I assume it's more about North European folklore, although I've seen mentions of other cultures too. It's a bit hard to read for a non-native, but while I'm still in the first chapter, I'd say it is quite engaging. Still, don't expect any updates on this one from me anytime soon. So, these are my immediate bookish plans. Let me know about yours. I hope you enjoy fall like a decent person, and I hope you enjoy your reading.